So it's Cheltenham, and the great thing about Cheltenham is turnover. You know, we've been through a winter period where there isn't a great deal going on. The average turnover of a horse race is about £500,000, and you get to Cheltenham, and it increases significantly. I've got notes here from last year, and the total turnover last year was 97.5 million, so a lot of money. And the average turnover per race was about 3.6. Now that varied from one race to another. You know, you've got some races that do significant amounts. Generally, the feature races that take place at 3:20 every afternoon. And then the smaller races obviously do much less, but by much less, you know, the smallest race did 1.7 million. And you run into many, many millions for the really, really big races. So that's great, but it's also a problem, because if you imagine you go into a market, you make a mistake and you're trying to get a position out, the huge amount of money that's going through the market slows the whole market down, so it's sort of trading treacle almost. So it takes a fair bit of adjustment to get used to that. And the interesting thing, I can give you the stats around it as well, is it takes about 8 times as long to get matched at Cheltenham as it does in a conventional day-to-day sort of market. So, you know, it takes a little bit of getting used to if this is your first Cheltenham. But as I'm quite experienced, I flip and flop and change styles as the calendar changes through the year and we go in and out of different meetings. So I'll be changing my trading style in the run-up to Cheltenham. And while it takes longer for bets to get matched at Cheltenham, then you also have this positive effect in that the amount of volatility you see at Cheltenham is a little bit less than you see elsewhere. It's about a third less than you would see in other markets. But, you know, it will still move around a bit. And a lot of that depends upon the market that you're looking at. So, you know, don't take it as read that it's going to behave in one way or another. And what I do every year is on the Tuesday I use as a sort of practice area to try and learn and understand what's going on with the markets as well. But also I'm talking about volume being an issue. This is a time of year when BetDAQ becomes quite attractive, because you can actually trade on BetDAQ and the average queue size is much smaller than you get on Betfair. So actually, sort of, you know, that turns very favourable, and it certainly has been favourable over the last few years. So one of the things you may consider is having a look at BetDAQ, and in fact, I will actually trade on both Betfair and BetDAQ to, you know, learn the characteristics of both, and preferably get money out of both. But, you know, having both up there will allow me to decide what I think is more favourable in terms of the characteristics, the way it's trading, and the opportunity that's available. So yeah, traded volume per race is pretty big. I've got book value here at SP, and the interesting thing about this last year, you know, the average field size at Cheltenham is 17 versus about 9 to 10 in a normal race, but there were actually 3 races that SP'd under 100%, which is incredible. You know, how does that happen? So let's have a look and see what else I've got here. There's loads and loads of data. Basically, every major meeting I'll archive large chunks of data, just so that I can see how it compares year on year. Or, you know, it's nothing worse than looking at one year and the next year and not having any comparison with it, because then you're sort of thinking, well, I'm sure last year it was, you know, this happened or that happened, or it was better or it was worse, or having the data allows you to actually say, well, this is exactly what is the case. So as we go through the week, I'll try and update you in terms of what I've seen. Now, I've got some charts here from the prior years. You can see there's still a fair bit of movement. You know, some of them are relatively flat, but, you know, on here you can see there was a load of activity just before the off, so that'll be interesting. Tuesday will feel very different from the rest of the week, by the way, but that's just because of the way that the cards are laid out and so on and so forth. But yeah, the Sprinter Sacra was 126, I think, went off at last year. You can see the chart for Sprinter Sacra. But of course, Sprinter Sacra will not be there this year, so that's going to be an interesting market. That will certainly feel completely different. But yeah, you know, you can see on some of the days, this was, I can't remember if this is Thursday or Friday. I haven't written it down on here, so I can't tell you off the top of my head. But you can see that was, you know, prices are all over the place on that day. But I'll be sitting there making observations, trying to understand what's going on. But I, for one, certainly welcome Cheltenham. It kickstarts the year. There's not much going on in January, February, March. It suddenly kickstarts the year. And, you know, if it goes well, it'll make March. And if it doesn't go well, then, well, maybe I'll have to rethink things again. but I'm going to certainly give it my best shot and see if I can achieve some of the totals that I have in previous years. You may want to have a look around the blog, and you'll see that there's quite a lot of detailed information on what happened in prior years on the blog. So yeah, make sure you check that out.